My name's Kanina Terry. My family comes from Lac Seul, which is Obijikokong, which is very close to Sioux Lookout, but I was born and raised in this property here in Sioux Lookout. High tanning was always something that I'd thought about. And really for me, it's kind of comes from me being a creator and wanting to make things from hide, but also really appreciating the work that would go into it and the smell of it. The smell is so intoxicating, and it's so easily identifiable. You can just tell when something's been home tanned. And I noticed in the past 20 years that there was less and less products coming from the north and being made with home tan leather. I went to a one-day workshop in Winnipeg, and what he was working at the time for dry scraping, and that was where I really learned about dry scraping was from him, was he was just using Pry Bars. So when I got home from that, that's what I started to get was Pry Bars. I started with these, and they work really well. Like, I can sharpen them, and yeah, they work well. They're effective. And so after using that and working with that for a bit, I had my neighbor who is a welder make these two tools for me, just based on what we were doing and thinking, okay, well, I'm using this. I always have my hand here for dry scraping. It was my dad, I think, that talked about having something here for scraping down. I think that's just a little too big, and I find when I was doing the frost scraping, I would just sharpen these all up and just kind of sharpen them all at once and just go through them. And you need to sharpen them after 5 minutes, really. So I'd get them all sharpened and scrape. So these are the ones I was scraping with for frost scraping this past winter, past two winters, and they work well. These are two tools I just got in the spring this year. They're from a high tanner who lives, I think, in Alberta or Saskatchewan, he shares lots of videos about how, and he's just really kind of amazing. And he had made a bunch of tools, so I bought I bought the little one for my son, and then this for me, and this has been my go-to scraper for dry scraping now. So I'm curious to see how it'll be in the winter. It might be really nice. This is a tool that my dad made for me in January this year, and it was fashioned after a tool that my uncle has used, and then also people from Long Lake area have used, and it's an axe that would be like this, put into a piece of wood, and it's used in this motion. And this was really effective this winter for frost scraping. This is a tool I use when I'm kind of near the end. I feel like I've gotten the hide down to a really good thickness and I'm happy with it, but it might have some grooves from the round blades. So I'll use this and I'll just kind of hold it like this and to try to smooth it out. I think of it as a finishing tool. My parents brought me back this from Switzerland. They went there a few falls ago. This is a tool I've used as a kind of like a white man's tool for doing the fleshing on a post. And I've seen other people, I know you'll probably see them later, as they have nice moose bone tools that are used scrapers to go down like this to kind of chisel away at the membrane and the muscle. And I have made one actually, but it cracked. That was one I made from the roadkill moose that we skinned. I took the bones, and the bones were actually not strong enough at the time because it was still a growing animal, so the bone cracked. And this works well for that. And all of these are fleshing knives. So these are ones I bought. I think I bought this online. This is the one I'm liking to use most because it's got nice handles, and I got this at a shop in Dryden. Used that way. This is one, when we did our workshop in Sioux Lookout 2 summers ago, we knew we'd need tools, and Julia had some, but we wanted a few extras. And I forget who, but someone had access to some old scrap materials in Hudson at the Hudson wood mill, and he dropped off a bunch of planer blades. So this is actually pretty sharp. And my dad just put some old sleeping pads on here and wrapped them in tape. It's heavy. You'd get a really good arm workout out of this. And I don't use it too often because it's just heavy. This was a bone tool that Julia gave my son. It's a rib, I think a deer rib, and it works really well for, like, I find I haven't had much luck using it to actually get the grain off of the deer. But when a deer has been really swollen and the hair slipping, it's really good just to get the hair off. And that's something I'll do just to get my son in there, making him work for me and with me and learning, is I'll get him to just get the hair off. And then this is an antler rib that my dad, I think him and my mom were driving and saw, not an antler rib, a moose rib. They just saw this, carcass on the side of the road, and he came and brought me home 2 moose ribs. I was like, oh, thank you, Dad. And I've just been kind of slowly filing these and using them, trying to see how I would use them for scraping as alternative to the modern day tools. And then this is just a knife. A handy knife, it clips on and it stays sharp. It's a Mora knife. I think that's it.